Imagine a world without cell phones, no cars, no electricity, not even written language. Now imagine waking up in that world every single day, not knowing if you'd eat, be hunted, or even survive the night. That was the reality of early humans, the so-called cavemen. But here's the thing. Almost everything we think we know about them is completely wrong. Pop culture, especially cartoons and Hollywood, has painted a picture of prehistoric people as grunting, dirty, unintelligent brutes who lived inside caves and spent most of their time running from dinosaurs. But real archaeology, anthropology, and even evolutionary psychology tell a very different and much more fascinating story. In this video, we're diving deep into the biggest myths about cavemen, uncovering who they really were, what they actually did all day, and why understanding their lives can teach us a surprising amount about our own. So put on your imagination helmet and toss aside that cartoon club. We're about to bust some Stone Age myths. Let's start with the most obvious image. A hairy man in a cave, holding a wooden club, maybe dragging his mate by the hair. Sound familiar? That's the classic caveman stereotype, and it's been burned into our collective imagination by decades of TV shows, comic books, and cartoons like the Flintstones. But did early humans really live in caves full-time? Not exactly. Caves were more like occasional shelters, natural places to retreat during harsh weather or to perform spiritual rituals. In fact, many of the most famous cave sites, like those in Lascaux or Altamira, are full of sophisticated art, but show little evidence of long-term habitation. Most early humans were nomadic or semi-nomadic, moving with the seasons and food sources. They built temporary homes out of animal hides, wood, and even bones. Think less permanent caveman cave and more prehistoric Airbnb that moves when the food runs out. So while we've found beautiful cave paintings, they're more like prehistoric museums or temples than cozy homes with a fur couch. Another myth that just won't go extinct is that cavemen were basically brainless. The idea goes, if you lived thousands of years ago before books and Wi-Fi, you must have been barely smarter than an ape, right? Totally wrong. Early humans were problem solvers, innovators, and masters of their environments. We have evidence of them creating a wide range of tools: knives, scrapers, fish hooks, sewing needles, and even musical instruments like flutes made from bird bones. Their ability to adapt and use natural resources creatively is what kept them alive through ice ages and predators. And let's talk about language. No, they didn't just grunt. Many researchers believe that early humans had complex systems of vocal communication, maybe not full-blown languages as we know them today, but certainly structured ways of expressing needs, emotions, and instructions. Combine that with nonverbal cues, gestures, and even art, and it's clear they were far from dumb. In fact, your average Stone Age family probably communicated more effectively as a group than most people stuck on their phones at dinner. Now let's tackle one of the most ridiculous myths ever invented, that cavemen lived alongside dinosaurs. Seriously? It's fun for movies, but it's pure fantasy. Dinosaurs went extinct around 65 million years ago. Homo sapiens, our species, didn't appear until roughly 300,000 years ago. That's a gap of more than 64 million years. So unless you believe in time-traveling Neanderthals, the idea of cavemen riding T-Rexes or dodging velociraptors is scientifically impossible. What did they actually face? Real-life megafauna like woolly mammoths, saber-toothed cats, and giant ground sloths, creatures that were terrifying enough without needing a Jurassic reboot. The Ice Age wasn't some frosty playground. It was a brutal environment full of deadly challenges. Early humans survived not through brute strength, but through cooperation, intelligence, and adaptability. The myth of cavemen as monster-fighting superhumans is fun, but the truth is even more impressive. They weren't superheroes. They were survivors. Now let's talk gender roles, because another big misconception is that men did all the hunting while women stayed home cooking mammoth stew. In truth, the division of labor in prehistoric times wasn't nearly so black and white. Recent archaeological discoveries suggest that women participated in hunting, gathered critical food sources, and even used weapons. A burial site in Peru revealed a young woman buried with a full hunter's toolkit, clearly honored for her role as a provider. Childcare, foraging, tool-making, and food preparation were all shared activities. Early human groups were small, interdependent, and had to be flexible to survive. There was no room for rigid job descriptions. Everyone contributed according to skill, need, and circumstance, not according to gender. And when it came to leadership or wisdom, age and experience mattered more than brute strength. So much for the dumb cave wife stereotype. The truth is, prehistoric women weren't background characters, they were central to their communities, often leading in ways we're only just beginning to understand. Let's imagine a real day in the life of a prehistoric human. You wake up before dawn. There's no alarm clock, just the first birdsong and the cold breeze creeping into your shelter. You stretch, check on your kids, and maybe you're already thinking about what you need to hunt, gather, or repair that day. Breakfast might be leftover dried meat, berries, or roasted roots from the night before. Someone is preparing tools, while others are setting out to fish. Children are nearby watching, mimicking, learning by doing. You're not sitting down for a PowerPoint presentation on how to survive. You're learning with your hands, your eyes, and your instincts. As the sun climbs, tasks are divided. Maybe you're part of the group tracking animal footprints, maybe you're crafting a new spear tip or collecting medicinal herbs. And when the sun starts to set, the group gathers around a fire. This is where stories come alive. The past is shared orally, with emotion, rhythm, and expression. These are the earliest versions of bedtime stories and moral lessons. By nightfall, the stars are out, the fire crackles, and you're lying beside your family, listening to breathing, wind, and distant howls. It's a hard life, but not a chaotic one. It's a life full of rhythm, connection, and meaning. So why do these ridiculous myths about cavemen persist? Because they're simple, they're entertaining, and most of all, they make us feel better about our so-called progress. But when we reduce early humans to cartoonish cliches, we lose an important truth, that they were human in the most profound sense of the word. They laughed, cried, loved, feared, invented, dreamed. They weren't perfect, but they were curious and adaptable. They faced dangers we can barely imagine and still found time to make art, form relationships, and create meaning. In many ways, the things they valued, community, storytelling, nature, survival, are exactly what we're trying to reconnect with today. If you strip away the noise of the modern world, maybe we're not so different after all. If you've made it this far, you now know that real cavemen weren't like the movies. They didn't live with dinosaurs. They weren't stupid. They didn't grunt through life or drag women by the hair. They were us, just earlier versions facing a world without modern tools but full of human complexity. If this changed how you see history, hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling us which myth you believed growing up. And remember, history isn't boring. It's just been told wrong. Let's rewrite it together, one story at a time.